Right side room, over here. No! I'm so bad. What up, everybody? It's BBKDRAGOON, and I want to talk about competitive, specifically a reaction to the MLG exhibition event that happened this last week, and a question that's floating around the community quite a bit. Can competitive Destiny work? And it's a hard question because, let's face it, the sandbox of Destiny is huge, it's vast, and it's not built from the ground up to be a competitive fair start shooter. It's built to be a shooter where you accumulate loot, you use whatever loot you want in the Crucible, and there's multiple different playstyles that you can try out and find your own way of playing in the Crucible. If you didn't watch the MLG exhibition event that happened this last week, I'll give a quick recap. MLG invited about 12 streamers and YouTubers, very popular community members in the PvP scene, out to have this big exhibition match. 6v6 Supremacy on the new Rise of Iron maps, using the new Rise of Iron game mode. It was a promotional event. If you don't know, Activision owns MLG. That was a nice snipe shot right there by that dude. Activision bought MLG probably about a year and a half ago now, and the reason they had this event is obviously to promote the game. It's as simple as that. They weren't looking to do anything more than introduce people to, hey, private matches can allow for a competitive environment. But I was rather sour about the event, and I was not the only one because of a few choices. Number one, they did 6v6. Sixes are not considered the competitive optimal game mode in Destiny. It's considered more chaotic, more casual, just sort of a fun mesh of things going on. But if you guys have played any amount of sixes, you know what I'm talking about when the chaos and snowballing gets started. One team can take a lead, create orbs, and just snowball supers over and over again. The other thing that I thought was interesting in the event that they didn't do 3v3 at, they didn't allow the players to use the sweats rules. And that kind of makes sense because sweat rules only apply to 3v3. If you're unfamiliar, there has been a competitive scene to Destiny for the last year and a half. And the sweat scenes is a set of community rules and guidelines that were used for basically scrims or sweat matches or the, tournaments that have been going on. It's just hard because tournaments previously before private matches involved people, yes, I'm not joking, searching in orbit at the same time to try and match with each other. It was extremely challenging, but those guys were dedicated enough to do it. The sweats rules are things that limit the sandbox to create a more fair environment for competitive Destiny play. An example being no exotic armor is allowed to be used. It's only 3v3s, and you can only have one of each class on your team. That means one Warlock, one Titan, one Hunter. And there's certain weapons that are banned and, basic rules like that, but they create a more fair environment for the matches. Bungie has gone on record saying they don't like the sweat rules because it waters down the sandbox. Well, yeah, it has to. At the high end of play, there are so many incredibly powerful things in Destiny that in order for it to be competitive, you have to limit the sandbox. You have to water it down a little bit. But I understand that also clashes with Bungie's ideal version of Destiny PvP, which is pick the way that you want to play. You can use whatever gun you want or whatever super or build and just customize it to your specifications. But I don't for a second believe that Bungie balances Destiny for high-end competitive play. I believe they do these balance passes for pretty good balance, like what's considered not too egregious. There shouldn't be any giant offenders, but they're going to define what the current meta and playstyles are, what the current popular weapon set is, i.e. Thornpocalypse. From February until September last year, you had a gun that was extremely good, so good that it dominated all of the primary weapon slots and grew to be a bigger problem until they did a balance pass on it. Now, if this was a really competitive game with a thriving tournament scene, I guarantee you would not have a patch lasting that long. Okay, from February to September was something that's incredibly powerful. It was considered to be like OP. So, now there's the background, and of course, if you watch the event, there were two builds that were being used by everybody, with almost no exceptions. People were using Grasp of Malak, Party Crasher, the setup I've been using on my character for about 2 months now. Or people are using IS Luna, Party Crasher, again, a setup I've been using on this channel for a while now. The maps were pretty small, and you saw a ton of shotgun rushdown play. This is coming right off of the sniper nerf patch, where snipers are no longer that viable at high end because of flinch being just insane, and the lack of reliable one-shot kill supers for the mid to low tier impact snipers. So there's a lot of guys just rushing with shotguns, okay? Now, it was incredible, maneuverability play, watching some of these guys just dance through the air like Luminosity, Sir Demetrius. It was still a really fun event to watch, but not a great reflection of what I think Destiny competitive play could be. So let's talk about the two features that I think absolutely need to occur. Sandbox limitations, the ability for the community to experiment with limitations that help them find the optimal set of rules for competitive play. Best example I can give you is this. Right now, Grasp is extremely strong and IS Luna is extremely strong. And if you don't have a really nice roll, one of those weapons, and you're at a high-end Destiny tournament, all of these guys right now are using their own set of gear, the gear that they've been farming. If you've never gotten a perfect roll, top-tier gun, how are you expected to compete on a serious level with others who have that weapon? If you're at a tournament that there's $10,000 on the line, and let's say the team who had the perfect roll, Grasp, or whatever the weapon is at that time, wins, yet Team B had suboptimal perk rolls because they could never get the right RNG to get the perfect roll weapon, your competitive game will never be taken seriously. That's why I want to see in private matches the ability for the game owner to set specific settings, standardized perk rolls for weapons and armor sets. And that doesn't have to bleed its way into public matchmaking. It doesn't have to compromise the awesome sandbox that Bungie lets and wants to have happen. But honestly, the game owner should be able to say, players have access to a Grasp of Malak with these perks, or whatever primary with these perk rolls. That's the only way it's going to be taken seriously, because if you've been grinding for tier 12 armor and you've never been able to get it, and there's a big tournament coming up, and you are basically at a disadvantage because of the RNG loot system, there's no way the general public is ever going to take Destiny seriously. Now, I'm not saying give the competitive players crazy OP garbage, okay? What I am saying, though, is in the private match-made settings, you should have that option. It's almost insulting how little private match settings we've got in Rise of Iron. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm excited. I don't want to get the comments saying, aren't you grateful that we get private matches? Yeah, I'm excited we get a feature that's standard in just about every multiplayer shooter ever of the last 15 years. But look at Bungie's history with custom games in Halo 3 and in Reach. The amount of customized options is insane. You can change so many small details, and it's very purposeful that the only things that we can really change in private matches are the time of day and the game type and the map. There's not these in-depth settings about customizing. Can you have multiple of each class? Can you have standardized armor sets? Can you ban out certain weapons? Can you get rid of the heavy spawn? It's specific because I think Bungie is actually afraid that the community will find a high skill, balanced, competitive rule set that works at the competitive portion, and it'll catch on. And then the competitive community will be very forceful and very convincing in their argument that we need these settings for tournaments to be taken seriously. I think that Bungie does not want that to occur because it doesn't mesh with the ideals of their Destiny PvP sandbox. And I'm not taking shots at them, guys. I like PvP a lot. And I'm not going to be a diehard competitive player, but I would just like some consistency and transparency from Bungie when a lot of times these balance passes are not built for high-end competitive play. Okay? That's very clear if you've been following the game since launch. They're built to create fun sandbox environments where there's the new trending gun. Every one of these balance passes creates the new trend and the new popular play styles. But at the same time, now you guys are starting to do MLG events, and you're trying to support the competitive community a little bit more. But you need to pick, you need to actually give us the options to create an optimal environment. Otherwise, it'll never get taken seriously, it'll never gain traction, and will be continually looked down on from other competitive FPS communities. The other thing that I think absolutely needs to happen is a ranked playlist, and this playlist embodies the settings that the competitive community finds. Okay, I understand Bungie does not like the sweat rules because it limits the sandbox. We have to limit the sandbox. There are OP things all over Crucible. That's part of the fun and the charm of it, but not at a competitive level where there's going to be money on the line. So that's my 2 cents. Honestly, we need a billion more settings for private matches, and Bungie has the full capability to give us that. I don't think it's a technical limitation at this point. I really don't, looking at their previous history of games. Is it going to happen before Destiny 2? Probably not. But that means competitive play on MLG events, on big sponsored tournaments, The community has to find an agreed upon rule set. And I think the sweat rules are probably the closest you're going to get to a little bit more fair of an environment that people can easily participate in. I mean, why on earth is there no ranked playlist in Destiny? There's skill-based matchmaking. Most of the competitive players use Guardian.gg or Destiny Tracker to get an idea of where their true skill is at, what their ELO is, who they're matching. Why do we have all of the constructs of a ranked system without an actual ranked playlist in the game for the competitive players to really go toe-to-toe in? I don't understand it. It just is confusing. We've got all the worst parts of a ranked system without any of the fun parts like the in-game visibility. Not every playlist should be ranked. That's not what I'm arguing, so relax. But, man, we've got a long way to go, in my opinion, for this whole thing to work out. And I'd love to hear your opinions down below. My opinions and bias is always going to be influenced by the fact that I grew up with arena shooters. I love Halo. I love Counter-Strike. And that is something that will never be removed from my opinions. Destiny offers something unique in the RNG loot system and in the way that perk rolls happen and the customized options that you have with your Guardian. But I think it's pretty clear after the MLG exhibition, you can see that without any limitations on the Sandbox, you get a pretty... I didn't think it was that fun to watch. Tons of shotguns, incredibly aggressive play, 6v6 chaos going down. And I don't think that translates to the common man, somebody who's not interested in Destiny as, oh, that's awesome, I totally want to participate. It embodies most of those players' frustrations. Like, yeah, I hate those shotguns. I hate getting rushed down. That's not very much fun. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you have your own feedback, let me know down below. I read all of it. If I can't reply, it's just super busy at work. We're only a couple days away from Rise of Iron, and I'm so excited, man. It's going to be a fun fall. All right, thanks for watching. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.